Sometimes, as a leader, you'll find yourself in a position where you may not be able to get all the information, or it feels like the goalpost keeps moving. In 2021, the New Zealand government established a Three Waters reform program. They wanted to change the structure of how things were managed by the local governments and move it to a multi-regional entity with a bottom line of public ownership. Working in local government at the time, I knew that this was going to be a turbulent and uncertain time. That meant potential job losses and mergers that would send anyone quaking in their boots. It was an ever-evolving process as the government tried to figure out what the change would look like and how these new entities would behave. People were pretty vocal about how they felt about it too, employees and the public. See, this change was government-led, meaning it was an external influence on the local governments. They didn't have much control over the changes that were coming their way. The leaders that I spoke to who were impacted by this were struggling to find out information and struggling with how to process it themselves. The government would release the information widely, so the leaders heard about the changes and the updates just as everyone else did. The leaders didn't get much of a chance to prepare for themselves, to figure out the best way to front foot and share this information with their teams, eroding trust and sending everyone's Survive channel to overheat. In an effort to prepare and support people, one of the assistance that the government provided as part of the reform program was change training. The government hired a variety of training companies across New Zealand to deliver these training sessions. I attended 2 of the sessions out of curiosity and intrigue to check out the content that was being delivered. It was your typical general change training, the usual what is change, why it's important, the neuroscience behind it, an exercise in reading quotes and why it resonates with us, and drawing on large flip charts. Usually with abstract concepts rather than actionable how-to for leaders to actually lead through change. The gem I found was in listening to what the leaders were saying. All the leaders, from supervisors to heads of departments, were voicing their concerns about how it was affecting them and their people, the struggles around the lack of information and the uncertainty, how their team's morale was dropping, and people were really scared. Now, these sessions were only a couple hours long, so the facilitator couldn't delve too much into some of the juice that was spilling over. I started asking questions to try and get a better understanding, and in a brief moment, partly hijacking the session but not intending to, the group started to form a small circle and shared examples of what was happening for them. The other leaders started relating to each other, and it became a little community of solving problems. So I kept asking questions because I could see in that moment having this space to walk through and chat about some of the issues was giving a tiny sparkle of hope, and that they weren't alone, that there could be other approaches that they may not have considered. And right on cue, we had to stop because we were running out of time. And that moment I thought, shit, that was gold. This is crucial for leaders. Rarely do leaders come together outside of their immediate peers to talk about the challenges they face with change. Rarely do they receive coaching and guidance. And sometimes just having a space to vent about what's going on and letting it go so you can then move on to problem solving is healthy for you. Change is about going through the motions as much as everyone else around you. By allowing yourself to go through it, it'll be easier for you to lead others through it. It's important and highly valuable for leaders to come together and discuss their approaches, how it's landing, and what they're seeing as they navigate through this. Essentially, bring leaders together and forming a leadership network with allies. One of the greatest roles of middle managers during change is to translate and pre-digest information from the higher-ups to the people. And this can only be achieved when you, as a middle manager, know why the change is important. Treat it as a North Star. When things get hard, and they will, your North Star will help remind you and your team why it's valuable and that there is light at the end of the tunnel. It'll help give you and your people hope, activating their Thrive channel and triggering Thrive behaviors that provides energy, passion, and excitement. So reach out to your fellow leaders, come together and huddle. Talk about the change, how everyone feels about it, what they understood it means, and the approaches you're considering to take to implement it in your area.